Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Today I have a fellow that's coming on the show. His name is Chance, and he is going to share some Bigfoot stories from Oklahoma. And Oklahoma seems to be a very good hot spot for Bigfoot activity. And before we get started with that, if anyone out there has a Bigfoot story or dog man, anything supernatural, paranormal they'd like to share on the show, you can go to brentonsawin@gmail.com, give me a brief description and contact information, and I will contact you back and we'll have you on the show to share your story. And if you'd like to contribute to the show, then you can go to a link in the description, PayPal me, and every contribution is very much appreciated. Super easy to use, and you'll see that it's not anything that's hard to use to make a contribution. Anyway, Thrunite sent another flashlight. I gotta show you this. This is my favorite one they've ever sent. It is the TC12V2 Thrunite, and it has the you turn it on here on the end, bam, and it turns it on for Firefly. But then you go to this button here, and you can go up through the cycles, brighter, 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 and then if you hold it down, it goes to strobe. I don't want to make somebody have a seizure or something. Has a clip, you can clip it on or something, but it also has a carrying case you can put it in. But the best thing I like about this light is it's a tactical light. You can hook it to a gun. Somehow or another, you can hook it to a gun. But the best feature I love on this light is that it has the 3400 battery. You can undo it here and get the battery out. This 3400 is bigger than like a double A, a little smaller than a C. But it's a big old battery, rechargeable battery, and the thing that this flashlight is that makes it awesome is right here. You pull that open, and you can hook USB up to it, bam, and charge it. So this thing is a battery charger. You can charge your flashlight, or you can charge the battery in this thing and put it in another device. If you have the headlamp that uses that 3400 or whatever. But to me, this is the most awesome flashlight they have sent to this date, and it has a little LED light on the little circle there, lights up blue and what have you. So when you're charging, it goes through the cycles on the LED light. It's an awesome, awesome light. TC12V2 Thrunite. I absolutely love this light, and it is such super good quality when you feel it. It's when you put it in your hand, you can tell that it's an awesome light. Put it in the case, carry it, you can hook it to your tactical gear or what have you, or you can put it on your belt right here. Awesome product. Links in the description there. But let's go check out Chance's stories. And I share a few little leads on some stuff that's going to be coming up that is going to be very, very fascinating toward the end of the video. I tell you about some things that I've been collecting, and probably like 3 hours worth of interviews that I've done so far. I got to figure out how to put that together and hide the identity of these people, but I give you some information about some upcoming stuff too. But enjoy Chance's story. Bye. Okay, if you would, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and tell where you live, please.
Okay, my name's Chance, and I live in South Central Oklahoma, just about 50 miles north of the Texas border. I actually live about 25 miles northwest of Ardmore in a little town called Milo, and there's about 100 people here. It's real small, just right south of the Arbuckle Mountains. But
Right.
anyway, I've got several stories to tell. Some of them took place here and pretty recently, actually. And then the other one happened to a guy that I work with, and I'm really good friends with. He's a real good guy. I've known him forever. But I'd probably go ahead and start with his story first, really, just to get it out of the way.
All right.
It happened about 20 years ago, and it happened about 40 miles away from here to the south at it's a wildlife refuge called Hickory Creek, and it's huge, and it's just a lot of really big trees and a lot of underbrush and swamps and creeks just for miles. There's thousands of acres of it. But anyway, him and his wife they were down there morel hunting in the spring. I don't know if y'all have those there in Kentucky or not, but they're mushrooms that grow, and everybody just picks them like crazy here and eats them. They're really good.
Yeah.
When they were on their way out, they were coming up. It's kind of a twisting road, with a lot of creeks and hills, so it's not a straight road in there at all. But they kind of come around a curve and come up on this hill, and as they come up on top of this hill, there's this creature standing. It kind of kneeled down, not really like on its knees, he said, but kind of like when you squat all the way down, how your knees are really bent. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, I guess this thing didn't see him at first, and it was just squatted down on the left side of the road. He said it looked like it had its hands down out in front of it, like it was messing with something. And just all in that moment, they were stopped looking at it, and it looked at them, and he said it just stood straight up, like just popped straight up and took like 3 long steps and got in the brush on the right side of the road to the opposite of where it was standing. And he said the brush right in that area was only like big trees. It wasn't a whole lot of underbrush like it is a lot of places, and you could see for a way through the trees. And he said him and his wife just watched this thing just basically, he said it was running, but it didn't look like it was running. It was just moving really fast, is what he said, until it was just gone. But they both looked at each other. It was like, what the crap did we just see,
That's a
Anyway.
wake-up call, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's real funny about talking about it. He's an old cowboy, man. Like he wears a straw hat all summer long, and then when it gets so cold, he changes to his felt hat. Like he's just like a true blue cowboy. He's a really good guy, and he doesn't talk about it to just anybody. And I've even seen him, like, when people will be talking about watching something about Bigfoot on TV or something, he doesn't just start talking about it, to anybody. He'll just kind of keep quiet, and he's just one of those guys. He don't want nobody to think he's crazy. And if I were to give his name out, he'd be mad at me on this deal. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, Oklahoma's got a lot of Bigfoot reports. I know that. I've got probably 3 or 4 right now, and some pictures that are pretty darn good, man. But I can't just share them without permission. But I do have some more people coming on to share some Oklahoma stories, and one guy just contacted me about the Chicken Man story that I did here a little while back from Oklahoma. And he sent me some pictures, and you can see this big creature standing right there, man. It's not. I mean, it's not real crystal clear, but you can darn sure tell it's a huge animal standing right there. You can see the arms, the head, everything, and it just makes me think, man, Oklahoma sure does have a lot of Bigfoot activity. It's a
Yeah, you wouldn't think it really. I didn't either at first until just here recently, and just I would always, I heard about Bigfoot and I watched the stuff that would come on TV, but I always associated it with like Oregon and Washington and Northern California and all that stuff. I never thought, right here, but
right.
but I guess they are.
Yeah, they certainly are. Well, that's an interesting story there. That's for sure. And but you have some of your own, so let's get to those. You
Yeah,
want to?
yeah. This stuff all happened here recently, and what started is about 5 years ago. My dad has this land here. He has about 50 acres here in Milo. And about 5 years ago, I built a shop, and I built just like a living quarters in the shop so I could have a single at the time. And, it was just easy and cheap. But anyway, I built just about 30 yards right off the timberline here. And where I live, we're just like right here in the foothills of the Arbuckle. It's real hilly and a lot of woods, and there's a lot of, in all the bottoms, there's like wheat fields everywhere, But what I started doing is I just started walking behind my house, going deer hunting and coyote hunting and that type of stuff, And it's basically like 30 yards behind north of my shop. It's just a straight drop, basically, for about a half a mile down to the creek. So what I've done is I took a chainsaw in there and I just sawed basically all the limbs back so I could drive my four-wheeler and golf cart and stuff down all the way to the creek, and then I would get off and I'd cross the creek and then I'd walk just wherever back in there, just save a little time. But so one time I was in there, this was early fall. I'd made the trail that spring, and then, of course, I didn't go back there much in the summer. It gets really hot here in the summer. But then it got to early fall, so I was like, well, I'll go look for some deer signs and all that stuff. So I start heading back in there, and I had my yellow lab with me, and at one point when we were walking back in there, he just kind of starts whimpering and it was kind of weird. He was like backing up to me. He was kind of in front of me and he had his tail end kind of pushing into my shins and just almost trying to sit down on my feet. It was just not like him at all. He's usually like running around in circles. I can hear him out in the brush, smelling around, and he'll bark. He'll usually tree an armadillo or something, Anyway, that was kind of weird, but I kind of blew that one off, and we kept walking. And probably about another 30, 40 minutes of walking, I walk out into this, I'm in some pretty thick brush, pretty thick woods. I'm walking really slow anyway. But I walk out into, I swear it was a trail, but it wasn't beat down on the ground. There's a lot of leaves on the ground. There wasn't like, like what you think an actual full-blown trail is. But something had gone through there and just broke the limbs down about 8 to 9 feet up and then all the way down. It didn't break every one of them off the tree. It just like grabbed it and pulled it down and just broke it. So I decided I'd just follow it to the north towards the brush, and I did. And there's an old property line in there that's an old fence. And it's really old. It's still got the posts where they split old oak trees, and just used those for T-posts. But at that particular spot where the little trail, I didn't really want to call it a trail because it wasn't beat down on the ground like something had been just using it constantly. But anyway, that's where it led straight to. And sure enough, the fence was just like pushed down right there. And all the wires were just like a foot off the ground, and I could just step right over it. And I stepped over it, and I didn't walk too much further. And man, the brush is just like super thick around here. I don't know if y'all have that type of underbrush. It just grows everywhere. It's got thorns, and you just can't walk through it.
Right. We do.
Anyway, it was that.
Kentucky's really
You do?
thick. Yeah. Sometimes it's so thick you can't get through it. You know?
Oh, that's how it is here a lot like that. And I was in like a brush thicket like that, and then Woody, he just starts acting crazy again, whimpering, trying to back into me. And I got that feeling you get every now and then when you're in the woods, you kind of back of your hair starts standing up and start getting the butterflies in your belly. And, most of the time you're just like, whatever. But I was like, that's kind of weird. Him acting weird. I'm getting that feeling. I don't know. I blew it off as somebody else being in there or something. I wasn't thinking Bigfoot at the time at all. But like I said, that was like 4 years ago. I just kind of started prowling around back in there. But anyway, that all happened, and I didn't really think too much of it. Deer season came and went, and it was probably January, about the end of January that following year, just a few months later. I started hearing a bunch of coyotes around the house, howling and stuff. So I was like, well, I'll get my predator call, and I'll just go back there a little ways and set up, and maybe I can call in a coyote. But so I get on the four-wheeler, and I head back there, and I get through the first little patch of trees. And just right there, laying across the trail, is a tree broken over, but it's about 10 inches in diameter at the bottom, and it's broken off about 6 feet up. So it's probably like 4 inches or so where it's actually broken, But it was like there's still about another 10, 12 foot of tree on top that's actually just broken over and laid across my trail. I didn't think nothing of it at the time. I just turned around, went and got the chainsaw, and I cut that one up a little bit and throwed it to the side and just headed on down towards the creek and got in the next patch of trees that you go through to get to the creek. And there's another tree, but it's on the opposite side of the trail, but it's broken over the opposite direction to lay across my trail just like the first one was, and broken exactly the same, like about the same size of the tree, but it was like something grabbed hold of it about 10 foot up or something and just pulled it over and snapped it off, like I kind of thought it was the wind at the time, but now that I've kind of gone back and started listening to all this stuff, I think it might have just been, that was, I don't know, maybe blocking my trail or something, trying to keep me out of there. I don't know. But so that all happened. I didn't ever think nothing of that stuff happened until I kind of went back and replayed all of it after all this recent stuff happened, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
But so what happened here recently is what opened like Pandora's box to all of it. And I put it all together. And about the best way I can explain that is it started by me and my wife and her son. We had gone to Ardmore and ate supper one night. And as we was coming home, there's a big flood control lake just about a mile north of my house. And the county roads here are basically all built just straight, and they're all square mile sections, but they kind of curved way around this lake just so they could build this lake, and you kind of drive around it, and then you come around behind the dam, and then you go back straight heading south. Well, that evening I kind of had a headache, but I had my head on my armrest, or my arm on my armrest, and I had my head resting on my hand, kind of rubbing my eye about the time this happened. His mom was talking about something. I was trying to listen to her, and I hear him say, he said, "Is that two boys?" And then, I mean, in the same breath as he said that, he said, "No, that's a Bigfoot." And, all of that, as I heard it, I was like, what did you see, And then we're basically at the spot where he saw it at that moment, because I never stopped driving. And I stopped, and I was like, what'd you just see, And he swears up and down that as soon as we come around that curve, the headlights hit this thing, and it was just standing on the side of the road, standing up. And like he said, as soon as the headlights hit it, it just ran across the road. And where it ran to, it's right on the creek. Man, it's some of the thickest brush around here. You know, it's just, there's no way a human's going to run through that stuff like and get out of sight that quick, you know.
Summer, turn it off. I'm recording.
He swears up and down he saw it. So that kind of prompted, you know, I started letting him listen to some of this stuff, and we started getting into it a little bit. And well, we were hunting this deer season, and you go about, it's a ways back north of my house, and you start getting into like the mountains. That's where the mountains start. I call them the foothills. I don't know. It's just really hilly. It's not mountains. It's just really hilly, and down in the bottom of this really thick woods. But anyway, what the deal was, we were sitting up on one kind of hill, watching a wheat field, where I knew the deer come out there almost every evening, you know. But we'd been sitting there a while. We got out there about 3 o'clock that evening. We were just going to sit there all evening and watch, you know, wait for deer. Oh, it's about probably 5 o'clock, I'd say. I was just kind of panning the wood line across the wheat field about 300 yards to the south of us. And I see just a black spot that just catches my eye. And there's an oak tree. It's a big oak tree, man. This thing's probably, 2-3 foot in diameter. And it's got a big split, probably, well, it wound up being, it's about 7 feet up where the split was. And there's about a 3-foot gap in the tree. And this black spot was right there. And it just catches my eye. And I'm just looking at it, and you could see like just a like a silhouette of like a head and what went down in the shoulders, but you couldn't see the edges of each shoulder. It was inside the gap of the tree, if that makes sense, if you can picture what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, as I see it, my son and the stepson, he's sitting there next to me. I get his attention. I'm like, hey, look at that right there. And he sees it, too, just plain as day. And about that time, I was just going to raise my rifle scope up to get a better look at it. And when I did that, it was kind of funny. I think of it as like when you're on a video game and you shoot the little fake target thing that flops up, you got to tell the difference in between a cop or a good person or a bad person, whatever, and you shoot it and it just falls back. Right. That's kind of what this was like. It just fell back or stepped back. I don't know. It was just weird. All of this stuff's weird, I had never talked about any of this on nothing like this at all either. I've kind of been nervous the whole time. But anyway, after we saw that, I rounded him up right then, and we walked down across the wheat field over to where it was. And, we were looking at that tree, and, man, that gap in that tree was like, his head had to have been 8 foot up in the air for his shoulders to have been where they were inside the gap of that tree, and he was just standing there watching us. And I really didn't think about looking for tracks at the time. I don't know if I would have found any. There was basically just leaves on the ground. But as we were standing there, we hear something start walking. We'd probably been there for 30 seconds to a minute, just long enough to be like, what the crap was that, And then we hear it just start walking. It was just 2 steps walking off through the leaves, hitting the leaves. And I looked at my stepson at that moment, and you could just see, like, that kid was scared now. His face was white as a ghost and eyes just wide open. And, the first words out of his mouth was, "Let's get out of here." We walked back, got on the 4-wheeler, and came home.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll make you do it. When you realize for real there is something out there, it's a whole different deal. Um, if it's speculation, there might be something out there. People will still go and all that, but when they're out there, that's a whole different ball game.
Man, I'll
Yeah,
tell you what, I don't look at it the same ever. Like about going out in the woods and knowing, like I think looking back and knowing, man, that thing was looking at us the whole time. It had to have been, because if it would have moved at any time, we would have seen it right off the bat,
right.
But it was just standing there, being still for as long as we were there, I think. And that would have been, like I said, a couple of hours. And so I think that was the part that just, I was like, man, I wonder how many times I've been out in the woods and one of them things was standing somewhere behind a tree, and I just walked right
Yeah,
by 40, 50 yards away, and never knew it. And just knew to stay still and knew if it moved, it was going to blow its cover until I got further enough away it could walk off at that point or something.
right.
It's just weird. You
Oh,
don't ever think about that until.
I guarantee you, it's been a bunch of times. Really. After I started covering the topic, I never really, you know, I never really had an encounter. And then after I started covering the topic, I knew kind of all the things people would say would happen. So I started noticing stuff then, like a tree falling over and things like that, and things being thrown
Yeah.
at me, and you know,
Yeah.
and the dog acting weird and all, that kind of stuff. And then you're laying in your tent at night, and you can all of a sudden you start hearing, while the dog is
Footsteps.
snuggling up next, the dog is snuggling up next to you, all shaking and shivering. It's like, why is the heck's the dog acting all weird? And you hear something walking around your tent, which normally you would say, oh, that's a rabbit, or you would try to blow it off with
Armadillo.
something else. Yeah, something, but it's and then I started looking, and then every once in a while I would see something, a humanoid shape, kind of a human type, shape. I would see a glimpse of it, kind of go from one tree to the other, and I still wanted to say, oh, that must be someone else camping, and they're up there gathering firewood, and then one thing leads to another, and the next thing you know, you kind of realize that they're there. And then it makes you kind of scared to camp, because that walking around your tent at night stuff kind of is a little bit scary,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I think it's just natural for people to want to rule out or like just explain something away. I think it's just it's like a comfort thing for people. Because I did it too. The first when I came across those broken down trees, I never thought, I was like, well, the wind blew those over or something. Not, hey, there might be some type of primate living out here that I don't even know about that's trying to tell me something by breaking these trees over.
Yeah. Yeah,
You never know.
I'm serious. There was one time I was camping, and I heard a tree get pushed over. I mean, I heard a tree fall, and I thought, well, a tree fell. It's like, wow, what's the chances of that? You being here and a tree falls over, and then
Yeah.
I heard another one about an hour later being pushed over or fall over. It's like, doggone, man, that's kind of it's kind of, what's the chance of hearing two trees fall over? And there was like four times a tree got pushed over, man. It was like, and here I am, someone who covers this kind of stuff, and I was like, man, that seems a little bit squatchy to me. And then
Yeah.
I ended up, I was gathering, I was going up into the more and more into the tree line, because I was flipping logs over and stuff like that, gathering worms to fish with, and just different baits and stuff like that you find under these tree logs. You can go out there and catch stuff with, and I ended up getting that feeling, like don't need to be up here kind of thing, and I believe I get hit with infrasound, because I ended up getting really sick. I mean, I'm talking about real sick, and I went back down to the campsite, and I felt so sick, man. I just felt so sleepy and so sick. And I was trying to ask the people that was with me. It's like, what did we eat something? Cause we all ate hot dogs or something that evening. And I was trying to ask about the mustard or and everybody ate the same thing, but I was the one that was sick, and I felt deathly ill, and it took like a whole sleep cycle to get over it. Um, and I've heard some about that too. When you get hit with this infrasound, it takes a sleep cycle to get past it. But yeah, it's kind of made me think about it, man, when going to camp and um, to not ignore, especially the dog. The dog lets you know. The dog was
Yeah,
acting
I
really,
think
really
so too.
strange. Yeah, man. The dogs act when they start
I
acting funny, man. There's something going on. You better pay
I think
attention.
they smell them. But something to do with the smell. A dog can smell so much better. I, I've heard a lot of people say, now that I've had this stuff happen, I've been listening to a lot of this stuff here lately, and I hear a lot of people say they smell the skunky, rotten meat smell. I never did smell anything, and I never had anything whoop at me or no tree knocks or anything like that. Uh, I think anything that I'm dealing with here is more like a rogue situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
I don't know if there would be a
I think they do different things. The smell might be something they put off. It's probably some of them do have a smell because they're hairy beasts. They're out in the woods and they probably don't bathe much, so they probably do have a body odor. But they would stay upwind from you. They know how to hunt, so when they're hunting,
yeah.
they're not gonna get upwind from whatever they're hunting. So if they're coming after whatever you might have, because I noticed what was happening at our campsite is they were throwing stuff at us, but they were throwing stuff that was in the area, so you would think maybe fell, like they were throwing these acorns at me while I was fishing, and they would hit in the
Uh,
water, but the tree wasn't even near the water. But my mind wanted to say, okay, that fell from the tree, but the tree was a long way from the
yeah.
water. But what it was doing is it was distracting me, so they could go up there and snag some stuff from our campsite because I kept coming up with stuff missing, and I thought my friends were eating, the stuff that was coming up missing. But it was like, I didn't want to say nothing because it's like, look, I'll go get some more. It's no big deal. If y'all ate that, that's fine. I would never make an issue with something like that, but. I think they were distracting us, and there was one time where one of the stringers of fish came up missing, and we thought maybe that the stringer just came loose from being tied up, and it got away or whatever. And but when you look back
Mm.
on it, the whole big picture, these things were playing us, distracting your attention over here and over there, and they were coming up, and they were opportunists. They hit you an infrasound or
Yeah.
whatever when you got too close. And I was the only one going up into the woods gathering firewood or flipping logs over. And I ran across this one spot, man, and it looked like a perfect, um, it looked like there was benches made. Because I ended up going back there when I felt bad. And I was sitting on these logs, kind of just like, oh man, I feel so bad, and I was feeling sick, but it was like they made these benches out of these logs. It was like a little triangle area set up, and it was like a perfect little living room. And
Uh,
now that I've heard a few other stories about areas where these things would make an area like that to sit and watch, it makes me wonder if I was in their area and that's why they hit me with the infrasound or whatever. And you know, but now I would pay
that's
more.
correct. That
I would pay a lot more attention now. Next time I go to that particular area because I actually
yeah.
seen them a couple of times, but I just was thinking it was a silhouette. And that's why it looked black because it was in the shade of something going by. I thought it was other campers camping somewhere else. But after I researched that out, there was actually no other campsites in the whole area. Yeah. So, But anyway,
That's crazy.
now when you were in that
You know, that's
car and you had someone say that's a Bigfoot, did they give you a description
yeah,
or?
that was my stepson. Oh yeah, yeah, that was my. He was well, we were in my pickup, and he was sitting in the middle, and my wife was sitting in the passenger seat, and I was driving, and I know that sounds crazy to think that he saw it and we didn't, but it all happened so quick. I mean, when we come around that curve, and I'm kind of halfway looking at her, listening to her with my head kind of leaned over, as all that happened. This thing, it had already, as soon as the headlights hit it, he said it just bolted, just darted. And I made him, I made him get out on the back porch and like run like it, and everything. But he saw something. I mean, he's just not the type of kid to lie about anything. And I don't know. And
Yeah, I mean, what do you
he's
say it looked like?
he said it was just solid brown and covered in hair. And we were listening to a one of the podcasts by another guy, Sasquatch Chronicles or something. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, I was letting him listen in on it with me, and they were talking about it being like 8-9 foot tall and all this stuff. And I mean, as soon as he heard that, he just looked at me. He goes, "The one I saw wasn't that tall." And the guy that I worked with, he said the one he saw was only like 6.5, 7 foot tall. And the one that me and him saw hunting, I think it was more like 8 foot tall. So I think that there's a lot of variations in these things, like just like people and other. I think that they're a living thing, and like I think you got some of them that's tall and male and female, and
Maybe you might have saw a
but I think,
teenager, juvenile, or whatever.
yeah,
There would
or a
be,
female. I don't
yeah.
know.
I would say well, I know. Look, dude, I'm talking to a fellow up in the northwest, kind of not all the way west, but he's been having some stuff happening on his property, and I'm still collecting the information. I've got about 3 hours worth of stuff collected so far, and then they've got some pictures of tracks, and they've been trying to catch the thing on film, or on pictures and stuff like that. But look, these things are killing their animals. They're getting more and more aggressive. Um, there's different sizes, and he saw one of the females, and he said this female looked like a Neanderthal, but it looked human. And he said that its breasts were perky, and it had kind of like real shiny hair. He said it was actually beautiful, And then he seen the male, but he did see the male also, and the male was huge. He said this thing was so big, it was. And anyway, it ended up having one encounter where he was guarding the area where he's got a bunch of equipment because he had a bunch of drug heads coming down there stealing stuff, copper and all that,
Yeah,
And he had been staying down there, and
yeah,
every once in a while he would have these things come in, and he didn't know what it was at first. He thought maybe it was the drug heads, coming in to steal copper or whatever. But there was one point where in the little camper he was staying in, this thing reached his arm in the camper and it was holding him down. And he was trying to do it like push up. He was laying on his stomach. He was trying to push up and he tore the tendons in his elbow. He was so scared he was trying to push himself up that hard. He's a big old guy. And he tore the tendons in his elbow. This thing was pushing down on him so hard it broke 3 of his ribs, and it broke the bed in the camper he was sleeping on, and the bed kind of fell, and that's what probably saved him. And yeah, I mean, stuff like that, dude. It's crazy, man. He's in some jeopardy, and so I've been talking with him on things he can do to kind of help protect himself. And they've been killing his dogs. I mean, talking about twisting the dog heads all the way around, or grabbing one of the dogs and ripping the skin off of it, and it be basically from the back of its neck all the way the whole back, the hides ripped off. Uh, and then other situations where they just tore the dogs to pieces. and they're taking like big bags of feed, the feed from the they had like this ice cream truck, and they pushed the ice cream truck
Yeah.
over here recently. They pushed the ice cream truck over, but they've been taking big bags of feed, dog food, seeds, stuff like that out of this thing and packing off whole bags of it. And they seem to follow the
That's
deer.
crazy.
Yeah, I know, man. And it's kind of a mountainous area, so they seem to come around at certain parts of the year. This has been going on for several years, but it's getting dangerous. There's even a guy that's come up missing, a homeless fellow, and several, just so many different things. I mean, it's a unbelievable story. I'm working on gathering that story up, and I'm telling you, everybody's going to they're going to be tripping on this story, man. It is crazy.
Yeah,
And
that
he's
sounds
got
like it.
they've got some pictures to like when the dogs got killed. They've got like the pictures of the footprints where you can tell this thing walks up into the area, the dogs surround it, and then this thing kills the dogs. So you can see like a
Uh,
crime scene. It's and they've got quite a bit of information where the wife is documenting picture wise as much as she can, and some of these prints are huge, and there seems to be several individual Bigfoots that are coming into the area, and now they're starting to come to their home. They own quite a bit of land around there, and grandchildren are drawing pictures and stuff, and that's freaking them out. Um, it's like, where'd you see this? I was like, at grandma's house, kind of deal. Is like, saw that at grandma's. Is like, that's not good, and
yeah.
stuff's hitting the side of their house at night, that kind of thing. So it's getting dangerous. I think that it's getting real dangerous. Someone ended up in the hospital. That's about all I'll say about that right now. And so anyway, I'm working on getting that story, but I have to put it together in a way that won't give away who they are, because they're business people. But very dangerous situation, and it's gotten aggressive, and it usually ends up aggressive because of food.
Yeah, yeah. I was just fixing to say the same thing. I think that certain circumstances have to happen before they get aggressive. Either like the rogue ones here, because if you ever hear of anything around in this area where I live, there's only one. You only hear of one, and I think that maybe if one was injured, or if it was really old or something. I've listened to a few of the things, all the missing 411 stuff, or they're kind of saying some of the missing kids might have been Sasquatches. Well, if a Sasquatch is real, like, here you have a 500 to 800 pound thing walking down a cliff and it slips and falls and twists its ankle, well, it can't catch a deer at that point, So, and it sees a batch of people walking through the woods and a little 6-year-old boy kind of starts tailing behind. And if this thing can just stand in the woods and you don't know about it, I mean, it's going to take the easiest prey it can find at that point, because
Right.
it's just like any other animal, it's got to survive.
Right.
That's what its main focus is going to be, is its survival. So,
Right.
man, I can only imagine, if something this big and this smart, like thinking that way, kind of thinking like a human does out in the woods, that's scary. That's real scary.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, these people. Whenever I get this story put out there, man, you're going to be amazed. I'm telling you, it's a really scary situation. I'm kind of concerned about them, because it seems like it's gotten more and more aggressive, and they're looking around, and where they have the whole family lives basically in this one area. They own quite a bit of property, but they're coming to their houses even, and because they know the sound of the truck. You can go from your area that you work at to your house if it's only a mile away. They know the sound of your truck. They know where you went.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
they're showing up at the houses, and And even other people that's been down there camping, they've had problems. Homeless guy, he's missing now. Yeah, it's a situation, man, and hopefully,
I would think that somehow they would. It seems like in that certain situation, it seems like I would say the Sasquatch are feeling like the people are encroaching on them. It sounds like they're somehow trying to run the
well,
people out of that area.
well, I think there was a fire in the area, and
Oh yeah.
I think it moved them. But
Uh,
the activity's been going on for a while, so but there's other things been going on too. There's been tree cutting and fires. There's been flooding uh, because of the tree cutting, and I think it's shifted these things down to another area to where they're becoming more opportunist and around where these people live. And I can't say a whole lot about what details because there's something this guy does that's very specific that would give him away in his region, because there's not
oh
very
yeah.
many people that does this type of thing, and so I'm trying to be real careful about because he's like, man, you can't give me away,
Yeah.
man. It would ruin me. It's like, hey, don't worry, man. I'll be careful about it. But anyway, man, I appreciate you for sharing your information, and you be careful while you're out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely have a different outlook going through the woods now. It's not the same anymore, but it's exciting at the same time. I want to see one like up close, but I don't know. I say that, but I don't know what I'd do really. I
Yeah,
wouldn't shoot it unless I had to, and I don't think it would do any good at that point anyway. But I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I know.
I don't know.
It
I don't
depends on
think
how
that they're
many are
all
around.
aggressive.
I mean, there could be others around.
Yeah,
It'd be dangerous to shoot one because there might be three or four others there that you're not
yeah.
seeing. So I would
I think the
discourage.
government definitely knows about them. I think that it's not a secret to them. I just don't think they want us to know about them because you'll have people gathering up and hunting parties and going out and trying to hunt them, and really, man, I don't think that's a good idea because I mean
They're
these
gonna
things
come
are pretty
down.
dangerous. Like
Yeah, they're gonna come
you
down
know,
into the city, dude. They'll come down into these suburb areas and stuff like that. Yeah, I know for a fact the government knows. Well, there's a lot of stuff that
yeah,
I've talked to quite a few people that that don't want to be known. You know what I mean? And I've had a few people on that are in higher position jobs now. They gave an account when they were like a sheriff or something, and now they're higher. They're up in
yeah,
federal police officer kind of stuff now, and they were telling me some things, and it's like there's people that deal with these kind of things, and they don't know all the answers. They're not saying they do, but they're like, look, you better be careful,
yeah.
what you
I don't
say and
think
what.
anybody has all the answers,
No,
but
huh?
I don't know. It's just crazy. Like you just think about it, if the government does know about it, then they've probably gone out and caught one somewhere, and they got one caged up somewhere. Just the where
Right.
you can go down a rabbit hole at that point is unlimited, really.
Yeah. I think they do go in
I
and
don't
take
know.
out the rogue ones, like the ones that are coming down and taking people, and they people come up missing too much, they'll go take care of that. Other than
I
that, we
imagine,
just don't know.
yeah. And like I said, I think the thing that caught my attention the most, like I said in the email I sent you, was the fact that this thing was watching us like it was. Like, that's the part that scared me the most, I guess.
Right.
It just seemed like it was, like it was interested in us and what we were doing. And I will say this, that thing, it knew exactly what I was doing when I pulled that scope up to look at it. that was its cue to get out of Dodge, So, I don't know. I don't know what they are or where they come from or anything like that, but they've been around people for a long time, and I think they've watched us, and they know what we do. I think they know when we pull something like that up, whether it be a gun or a camera, either one, they just know it's like their cue to leave.
And a lot of times you hear, I got a few stories that I read here recently. A lot of times you hear about them looking in the windows, watching people. They know a lot about us. They listen to us. They watch us. I've had stories where they're on the roof listening in the chimney, and they're standing there watching in the windows. Yeah. They're studying us, man. They know all that stuff. If you pull a gun on them, they know what a gun is. We're not surprising them.
And that's just crazy.
Yeah,
that's just crazy to me, like, and how elusive they are and how well they've kept out of sight and hidden for all this time,
Yeah.
It really, if it doesn't make the hair stand up on your back, like it should, because like I said, I've been in the woods a lot in my life, a whole lot, and by myself a lot. There's just some times when everything's fine, you've been in the woods for an hour or so, and then all of a sudden, everything gets quiet and you get that feeling.
Right.
And maybe that's just nature's way of trying to tell us something,
Right.
There may be something in the woods,
Well, I've got more videos coming up on that particular stuff, and we're going to dig deeper into those type of phenomenon and what have you. But anyway, I really appreciate you coming and sharing, man. If you get any more stories or something, just holler at me, man. You're welcome to come share them.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it.
Oh, sorry about that. My 3 o'clock alarm went off there. So during the week, I have to go pick the kid up at 3 o'clock. But it's Christmas vacation.
Yeah, so. I know that feeling. Hey, man, keep it up though. I like hearing all that stuff. It makes people like me that wouldn't normally come out and start talking about that type of stuff. 'Cause I'm an old country boy. I don't never go on the internet and talk to anybody or anything like that. But
it's fun. I love it, don't you? I love hearing people's stories, don't you?
Yeah, especially about Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff like that. My mom and dad had a crazy experience with a UFO in like '81 before I was born. But all that stuff. I've always been interested in it. But,
well, you need to come back and share something. Let's share that at some point, man. Go get all the details on it. I have several. I have several stories like UFO stories and stuff that I haven't really gotten to lately, and but I'd like to, because they're just as interesting, really.
Yeah, man. To tell you the truth, I've probably personally got more of those than I do Bigfoot. I've just always been really, more fascinated with Bigfoot, I'd say. But I've heard the UFO story that my mom and dad have had since I was a baby growing up, and then later in life I wound up having several things happen to me. But
let's do it
for another time.
Let's do that another time. Email me back and kind of give a gist of that story so I can save it and then so I don't end up forgetting about it. I'll save that in another category, and because I do have several stories like that I need to do, and I just haven't gotten to them yet, and so it would make it make some good shows, because those are kind of cool too, in a way to listen to. But anyway, hold on the line there, everybody out there in YouTube land. Appreciate you listening. If you got something you'd like to share here on the show, you can contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. If you want to contribute to help make this show, you can go to a link in the description, PayPal me, and make a contribution there. Every contribution is appreciated very much. And until next time, God bless, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.